Jasmine, could you please take a roll call vote of attendance?
Yes, Tim Dean,
Here.
Mark Doyle,
Yeah.
Kathy Bauer,
Here.
Jamie Picone,
Here.
Don Sagliano,
Here.
Al Torrigiani.
Here.
Okay, first thing on the agenda is conflict of interest disclosure, and fortunately or unfortunately, I do have two conflicts in this meeting. The first being the Nuvance matter. I serve on the board of Vassar Hospital, which is a Nuvance affiliate, so I have a conflict in that. And Bard College is up for consideration, and my firm does provide some insurance brokerage services to Bard College, so I will also have to step out of that meeting. So Mark Doyle will handle those parts of the meeting, and since those two things, we'll try and make them last so that you don't have to worry about bringing me back in. And for that reason, I'm going to ask Sarah to do the 9B loan fund update as the first part of new business so that we can handle the conflicts after that. So let's get back to the beginning of the meeting. A proof of meeting notice was published, correct, Sarah?
Yes. Tim,
Yes.
Al raised his hand as well when you said conflict of interest.
I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. Al also has a conflict on the Nuvance matter. Is that correct, Al?
Yes, that is correct. Our company is doing work over there.
Okay, so thank you. So we will do, I will suggest that Mark handle Bard College first and then Nuvance second so that Al can then hop out and not have to come back on either. Okay, so proof of meeting notice was posted. Any bills and communications at this point?
No.
Okay. Approval of minutes of the July 8th meeting. Does anybody have any corrections or changes, modifications to the minutes? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the July 8th meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Don Sagliano.
Al Torrigiani, I'll second.
Thank you, Al. Okay. Jasmine, will you please take a roll call vote of approval of the minutes?
Tim Dean,
Approve.
Mark Doyle,
Approve.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Jamie Picone,
Approved.
Don Sagliano,
Approved.
Al Torrigiani.
Approved.
Okay, report of the treasurer.
Good morning, this is Marilyn Yerk speaking. Looking at the balance sheet, we currently have 2.6 million in cash. We have an accounts receivable of 150,000, and that is outstanding from the IDA, and we will have that cash by the end of the year. Looking at the P&L, nothing outstanding to report. We're hoping to end the year better than expected, even though we have the 451,000 that we are not taking from the county. If the Bard project closes on time, we'll be looking at a final net loss of approximately 180,000, which is better than what was expected. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Just a comment, just for the I guess the public at large and for the rest of the board members. There is a section in our agenda that says bills and communication. I just want everybody to know that as part of normal checks and balances, I do receive copies of the accounts payable list from Marilyn, which I initial each page and sign off on the final bottom of the sheet as bills are paid. So it is a check and balance in the system that allows another set of eyes. So that is an ongoing method of doing business that occurs every month, as ongoing. So just to let you know about some internal communication that happens. Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the report of the treasurer?
So moved. Mark Doyle.
Thank you, Mark. Second, please.
Second, Kathy Bauer.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, Jasmine, will you take a roll call vote for approval of the treasurer's report?
Tim Dean,
Approved?
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
Jamie Falcone,
Approved.
Don Sagliano,
Approved.
Al Torrigiani.
Approved.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, are there any other reports of committees?
No.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to ask that we rearrange the agenda slightly, and I apologize to the members of the two organizations that may be on the call to speak about their matters, that being Nuvance and Bard. Again, just so that I can leave the meeting due to the conflicts, and so can Al, in a proper manner, and not have to go through any logistics of recontacting people for future matters. I'm going to move the loan fund update, which is 8B on the agenda, to now, the new business. And Sarah, I'm going to ask that you just, if you could sort of refresh our memory on why we started this and where we are right now.
So yeah, the LDC approved the creation of a loan fund in response to the pandemic and the assistance that our local businesses were asking, that we saw as a result of a survey that we did through the BNN network, and the assistance that our local small businesses were looking for. So so the LDC had created this loan fund. We had some parameters for it, that we wanted this loan fund to be available to those businesses that were not able to access other COVID-related programs, such as the PPP and the EIDL loans, as well as some other state and other local COVID-related funds. So this was approved back in May. We had identified Community Capital New York as our partner in accepting and recommending for approval these loans. And you know, I'm happy to announce that our loan fund is open. It has been open for a few weeks now. Since it has been open, we did receive, we have one application. However, that application was denied because this business had received COVID-related funds and assistance, as well as the business. We have one of the parameters that we have for the program is that the business has to have been open for 1 year from the time of application, and this business had not been open for a year at the time of application. So on those grounds, this application had been denied.
So before you go on, sir, I just wanted to comment and just sort of, you know, remind all of us, when we started this discussion, there was a lot of uncertainty about some of these other loan, the other grants and loans that were available out there, the EIDL and the PPP. Some businesses were not sure that they were qualified. Some were having difficulties applying. Some had questions about eligibility. So Marcus Molinaro and Ron Hicks and the legislature had, you know, asked us if we could, you know, put ourselves in a position to have an alternative available to people who, you know, in the end could not get those funds. Even though Sarah mentioned that it's only been open for a couple of weeks, the availability of this future fund has been on our website for quite some time. And prior to its you know, final structure being set up, people could contact Sarah and inquire about, you know, what it was about. And Sarah, how many inquiries did you get from that?
So we got about half a dozen inquiries about the loan fund before it's officially open. I'm happy to announce that all those businesses had been connected to funds. Some of those businesses did not realize that they could qualify for the PPP, and we linked them to that. Some of them were still waiting for their EIDL loans, and they needed, you know, had some questions about that, and we were able to assist them. And one business actually was looking for unemployment funds rather than a PPP or a loan. So we were able to work with them, kind of walk with them through the process with the Department of Labor, and connect them with that. So every business that had contacted us about our loan fund, we were able to connect them with assistance. So none of those businesses were turned away.
So, my comment is that, again, we are not really seeing a tremendous amount of requests for the loan fund that we have set up. And I think the reason for that is because, again, it was intended to be for those who could not pursue the other opportunities. And as it's turned out, most businesses have been able to take advantage of those other programs. So the need for our fund is not as great as we anticipated, but I still think it was important that we put it in place in case it was needed, and it still could be. So, so Sarah, is there anything more that you wanted to add about the loan fund at this point?
No, not at this point.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions about the loan fund and where we are with it? Just a couple more comments on my part. The reason that it took so long for us to open it was just getting through the legalities of the structure and contracts and with community capital so that they could be the ones to administer it for us. We actually had to assist them with some of the legal, I guess the legal consulting that had to be done to get it structured. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yes, yes. They weren't prepared for all the regulations and legal documents that we require, to comply with the general municipal law. So we assisted them with that. I also want to mention, Chairman, that Don Sagliano had waved his hand. I believe he may have a question.
Great.
Yeah, I did want to make a couple comments if I can, Chairman Dean.
Yes.
Yeah, with regards to the loan fund, at the legislature, we thought it was very important to be able to offer a recourse to those businesses that may have been shut out of other opportunities. And, unfortunately, what Sarah was just speaking to, is sometimes, government does get in the way, having to cross all those bridges of all the regulatory information for a small, great program of all the regulatory burdens that we had to navigate in order to offer this program. I mean, Sarah, what did it take you? A month and a half? 6 weeks?
It took, about 2 months to just go through all the regulatory things that the New York State requires us.
So sometimes government does indeed get in the way.
Yes.
I just want to make that statement, and speaking on behalf of the legislature, we stand ready, willing and able to assist any businesses however we can through the legislature. And in fact, what we're doing here with our organization as well, at least coming up with a solution.
Yes. And, even though the fund itself wasn't legally able to take applications, on our website, we had been encouraging people to, telling them that something was coming and that if they had any interest to let Sarah know. And as Sarah mentioned, we only really had 5 or 6 inquiries prior to it being approved and one actual formal submission. But I think the other nice thing is that of those half a dozen people that came to Sarah, it's not that they were denied. We were able to actually direct them to a quicker and better source for their needs than what we could do. So we help them, just not with our loan fund. Any other questions? I apologize to people if I don't see you waving, because on my screen I only see certain faces at one time and I don't always see you. So sorry about that. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to suggest, Mark Doyle, I'm going to ask you to take over. I'm going to step out and I'm going to suggest that you cover the Bard College first so that Al Torgiani can remain on the call. And then after you cover that matter, then he will have to also step out, but neither one of us would at that point will be coming back to the meeting. So Mark, I will ask you to adjourn the meeting after it's over.
All right, thank you very much, Tim.
Okay, so I'm going to leave the meeting at this point. Thank you all very much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Sarah and Don, would you like, well, Sarah, would you like to start with explaining to us the elements of this application?
Yes, I'll do a brief introduction and then I'll pass it over to Don. So in front of us is Bard College. They are asking for the LDC's assistance for tax exempt bonds, and a portion of that actually will be taxable. With the funds of the bond, Bard College is planning to refund existing debt, including a 2007 IDA bond, general renovations to the campus, and to for reserves as well. So with that, I'm going to pass that over to Don.
Okay. Morning, everyone. This application deals in part with refinancing old IDA debt that the company has. We've sent you drafts as this was going through, as we were trying to fill in the amounts, trying to bring them all up to date. We've done so, and so you have a copy of that. We received the full environmental assessment form properly completed by the applicant. I do have to say that I have noticed one typo, and that is that on page 5, I inserted the date of the EAF as September 8th. It's September 7th. So I would ask that when you consider this resolution, you consider it with that singular amendment. In addition to paying off existing debt, not just the IDA debt, but other debt of the college, commercial type debt, the totals are have been pretty much laid out to you. There's also there are also listed new projects, and there is a thorough listing of all of those by the applicant. Each of those was tested against the secret regulations, and it's clear to me in reviewing that they are all type 2 actions, since they each of them either call for green type of upgrades or they are renovations or within the particular project, within particular buildings, or they're also just maintenance, ordinary type of maintenance projects. So each of them were tested. The specific provisions of the secret regulations are listed in the application as each of the sections that we think it's under paragraph 1B. We've listed, and so you're making finding with this that it is a type, all of this is a type 2 action under provisions of 17.5C1, 2, 3, 9, 10, and 29. 29 is the provision that speaks in terms of refinances. Refinance is always considered to be a type 2 action, and that's the bulk of this project. There are just other new projects that are smaller and not a major focus of this, but it is, but they were included in this application, and I believe they all qualify as type 2 actions. And so that all this is merely the preliminary resolution. It calls for the public hearing and allows everybody to move forward. BARD has to spend a lot of time, money, and effort. We've been working well over 2 months working through all the pieces of this. We actually have a lot of documents already prepared by council. They've already met with some of the with some of the rating agencies. So under the circumstances, they're moving full speed ahead. We do want to have our the authority under this resolution to have the required TEFRA hearing, and then if everything is okay, we will come back with a bond resolution for the board to finally approve.
Oh, thank you very much, Don. Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments? I also have a limited screen. Is there anybody? No. I'm very pleased that BARD is coming to us again for financing and doing business with Dutchess County and through our processes. And furthermore, that it's really excellent that they are looking forward so optimistically towards growth and development. So this is a great sign. Sarah, is there any other business before we call for a motion?
No, and I don't see any board member indicating they have questions. So if you want to call for a vote.
I would merely ask that you indicate that one change on page 5 that indicates the EAF should be September, date of the EAF should be September 7th, not September 8th.
So that motion should state the language, Jasmine, of the date change and in favor of the refinancing resolution for Bard College. May I call for a motion?
Excuse me, Acting Chairman Dean, I know that there's representatives attached to this call from BARD. Do we need to hear from any of them with regards to this project? Or should that wait until we do the final approval? I just didn't know if we needed to get a sense of the timeline other than what Don Capolino might have described.
Good question. Sarah or Don, do you have any information on that, in that line?
Is anybody here from BARD? Is Tawn on the line?
I don't see anyone from BARD on the call.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure that if they were attached to the call that we were giving them due opportunities to comment.
No, thank you. I mean, we sort of assume that we know who's on the call due to the top line photos, but of course there could be others. It's a little more difficult process, but thank you for that, Don. All right, so who would like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion for the consideration and approval of a preliminary inducement for the issuance of LDC tax exempt refunding bonds for Bard College as identified in the agenda.
Yeah, I should say though that there are some taxable, there will be a taxable tail as they refer to it as well. And those numbers have to be, and that was my miss.
I'll duly note that in my statement that the taxability of some of the tail end of the refinancing will be determined at a date in the future.
Excellent. And a second.
Jamie Pacono, second.
Thank you, Jamie. So call for a vote of all in favor. Jasmine, would you like to take the roll call?
Mark Doyle,
Yes, in favor.
Kathy Bauer,
In favor.
James McCone,
In favor.
Don Sagliano,
In favor.
Al Torrigiani.
In favor.
All right, thank you very much. So that'll get them on their way. Sarah, would you like to introduce the Nuvance issue? And do we have anybody from Nuvance on the line?
So yeah, so we have 3 people from Nuvance on the line, but before I introduce them, I just want to say that for the record that Al does have a conflict and he will be logging off, correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you, Al.
Bye.
So also for the record with Al off the call, we still maintain quorum because we have Don Sagliano, Mark Doyle, Al Torgiani, and Kathy Bauer. So with that, we have on the call David Cates, Steve Rosenberg, and Karen Darcy from Nuvance on the call. And I think you can all unmute yourself if you'd like. Just know that the administrator needs to unmute you. So if you accidentally mute yourself during this presentation, just wave your hand and then we will unmute you. So for the board as a summary, at the last IDA meeting in July, Nuvance had come in front of the board asking for the executive director, myself, to sign a letter not declaring a default on the Nuvance bond that was issued last year. Nuvance was having issues with their audit. And so as part of that presentation and that letter, one of the conditions was that they return at the September meeting to give an update on the status. So with that, I'm going to turn that over to, I don't know if David or Stephen, if you wanted to.
Good morning. This is Steve Rosenberg. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Nuvance. Thank you for allowing us to appear again and to update you. So at the last meeting in July, we explained some of the issues we were running into in terms of having to restate the 2018 Legacy HealthQuest financial statements and some challenges we were running into in closing the 2019 HealthQuest statements, which will enable us to do a consolidated Nuvance statement, including Legacy Western Connecticut and Legacy HealthQuest. The issue we talked about at that time really revolved around an overstatement in the accounts receivable of about $75 million, which we thought at that time was going to be, the major issue that we would be dealing with. We have found since that time not anything else that really impacts the balance sheet or the income statement to any great extent, with the adherence to accounting guidelines and the care by which the previous management team had done that left a lot to be desired. So there was much more cleanup to be done than we originally anticipated. If you can think about maybe 100+ journal entries that we've had to go through and pouring through the books to make sure all the accounts are properly stated, to provide a sound basis for moving forward, it was just a lot more challenging than we anticipated. We asked for an extension at that time. You graciously gave us an extension till September 9th. We are nearing the end of the process. We will have all the audits and the required information completed by September 30th. So we are asking you again to consider an extension until that date, September 30th, for us to get all the work done we need to and to move forward in an appropriate fashion. David Cates, our bond counsel, is on the line. Karen Darcy, my vice president for finance, on the line. And we did have our E&Y audit partner on the line earlier. He unfortunately had to drop off. So we would be happy to answer any questions or provide any additional insights into the challenges we've had, should you, so desire.
Excellent. So is there any discussion from members of the board of questions that we'd like to ask?
Acting Chairman, I have a question. Do we have a does the hospital have a timeline yet as to when the audit will be completed? Sounds like there's still some wrap-up work. Is there a date certain so that we can at least calendar for a follow-up?
Yes, so our target date is the end of this month, September 30th. We do have an audit committee, which is meeting on September 24th, where we expect to present the final draft, or at least a substantially complete draft. So we are going to have this completed by September 30th. And we're confident that, an extension to that date will allow us to complete the work that's still currently in process. And we would be happy to come back to you, post that once we, send you the final audited financial statements and review them with you at your pleasure.
Very good. Don, do you have any other questions?
No, I did not.
Okay. So, from my point of view, this is a fairly short timeline, and obviously the company is in a massive process that has taken a lot of work, so we appreciate it. I was wondering, there must be certainly other components to whom you are responsible that are requiring adherence to a deadline. Is that right, Steve?
That is correct. So besides our audit committee, finance committee, and board for Nuvance, we have our master trustee on our bonds. We have CHIFA, which is another issuing authority, and we have our bondholders that are all holding their breath to see this. So there are a number of entities that we have had to present to and ask for extensions, to make sure we don't trip any covenants and find ourselves inadvertently in an event of default. So yes, we have had to have a lot of communication on this issue, unfortunately.
So that this is essentially the same deadline that you're presenting to, or timeline that you're presenting to those other organizations or components.
That's correct. Yes.
Very good. So Sarah, you would like us to make a vote to authorize you to sign a letter making this timeline extension?
So yeah, so it sounds like that is the request of Nuvance, is to extend the deadline, and to allow me to, execute a letter, or, or even just a resolution, I believe, by the board will be sufficient to extend the deadline, and perhaps have Nuvance return at a future meeting, at the October, if it's September 30th, to return at the October meeting to, make a report.
Don Capolino, do you have any preference as to how this would?
So Don unfortunately had to leave. He had a court appointment, but Liz Capolino is on the call, and I think Liz can also speak to the issue.
Certainly. Thank you, Liz.
Sorry, I had to be unmuted. Yeah, so Sarah already signed a letter authorizing, or basically saying that LDC is not going to declare a default so long as this issue is resolved by today's date. And I think to just have a resolution, a vote of the board authorizing her to sign that letter, agreeing, the same letter with the same terms, just agreeing to extend that date to September 30th.
Very good. All right. So I think the motion therefore is to authorize Sarah to extend the deadline of the previous, stated on the previous letter to Nuvance, and to ask them to present to us during the October meeting. Does that sound correct? All right. Would somebody like to make that motion?
James will make that motion.
Thank you, James. And
Kathy Bauer, second.
thank you, Kathy. Jasmine, could you take the roll call, please, for those in favor?
Yes, Mark Doral,
Yes, in favor.
Kathy Bauer,
In favor.
Jim Picone,
In favor.
Don Sagliano.
In favor.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Steve. I hope that is the last time you need to ask for this, for your
Not
sake.
as much as I do. We very much appreciate your assistance and consideration. Thank you.
All right. I hope it goes well.
Thank
Thank you. Is there any other business, any questions from members of the board? Sarah?
So I have nothing more to present to the board this morning.
All right. Well, then I'm sure we've all got a long list of things to do today. So I'd like to adjourn the meeting and look forward to hearing the conclusion of this next month.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.